Okay, everybody, welcome to part 2 of the sort of ChatGPT/AI webinar on behalf of the Avenue project. Today, I've slightly altered the name of the session. It's called ChatGPT Prompting to Streamline Learning Object Development because we're going to go beyond H5Ps today. So today, my asks are try to keep your questions to the end, hopefully. Participate if you wish, like by interacting with the course or whatever you want to do on the side. But if you get stuck, please don't ask me any questions. Refer to the handout for details. And handout is here on this shared course. So if you have the shared course and you self-enrolled, today's handout is right here. It's a PDF. It's 34 pages, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy going through this over the weekend. Anyway, that's the handout. It's on the course itself. On the course itself here, we have all of last week's content, and we're going to actually use some of this content today to build the H5P column. And today we're going to make, we're going to use one prompt to make 2 H5Ps to save some time. We're going to make an H5P from our pre-existing H5P column, from our pre-existing tools or results. We're also, I had a request to make an H5P quiz from a document. So today we're just going to make one from a story. And then we're going to do the fun thing that might make a lot of you like Moodle quizzes a bit more. We're going to use ChatGPT to do the process of making Moodle quizzes. Now, the one we do today is kind of cumbersome, the first one. But if you have a whole bunch of them on a project, this kind of process will save you a lot of time. Then we're going to look at the built-in AI in Quizlet. It's not a lot, but just want to show you that that exists. And I'm going to show you some funky thing from your phone you can use with ChatGPT. So that's basically what we're going to be going through today. Please help me out if I'm doing something wrong. Okay. If I'm not recording, if I'm not sharing the screen, please tell me. Thank you. So today, I just have one poll. The poll asks, were you here last week? And the answers are, yes, I was, but I have not thought about the webinar since. Yes, I was, and I considered one element from last week's webinar. Yes, I was, and I actioned one element from last week's webinar. No, I was not. And right now, the no's are ahead by a nose. Actually, more than a nose. A lot of folks weren't here last week so far. Okay, and everybody's answered. And it looks like we have some newbies, and hopefully that you can see that. So we might have to maybe pause and do a little more explanation tonight than I was hoping to do, but it's okay. It's good to see that some of you, or just about half of you, did. Not even half of you. A third of you did consider an element from last week and actioned it. And I think I know that it was Sophie that actioned one, going further and putting more descriptor into their prompt to ensure that it was accessible. Sophie, do you want to share that with everybody? Because that was pretty cool.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so but the starting point was your webinar last week. So I realized that ChatGPT could code very well. And so we were doing something about analyzing the child's gradebook report, and we wanted a table. And normally before I would have put a screenshot and I would have attached the PDF of the gradebook. But this time, thanks to the webinar, I thought, oh, maybe we could code it with ChatGPT. So I uploaded the fake gradebook, and I said, please make it like an HTML table which it did. But then we also have an accessibility expert who said, that's fine, Sophie, but it's not accessible at all. And I was all puzzled. And she said, why don't you add in your prompt, make sure this table satisfies with the standards of WCAG 2.1. And then whatever he does, it includes it and it puts the correct what do you call info button for the reading, for the people who have to use a reading screen. So yeah, so don't hesitate to add in your prompt, make sure it's accessible and be specific. The WCAG, it's okay, sorry, I wrote it. It's WCAG 2.1. And then it just magically happens and then it works on the Moodle.
Sophie, I hate to say, there's no such thing as real magic.
Yeah, okay, it's not.
Yeah, but you know, no, thank you. That's an excellent example. Integrating accessibility, digital accessibility into your learning objects. Holy cow, what a great time when the AOEDA and the federal accessibility deadlines are approaching. So thank you for that. Okay, so today we're going to do one ChatGPT prompt to make two H5Ps. We're going to create an H5P column activity quickly using a copy method. I'm not sure if a lot of you have used H5P, but a lot of people don't seem to know this trick. It's really not really AI, but anyway, I'll show you. We're going to use a prompt to make a Moodle quiz and then place that into Moodle. This one, like I said, is clunky, but if you have, say, 25 quizzes to do for a course or a series of courses, it's really going to help you out. We're going to look at Quizlet's AI just to show you embedded AI. And then we're going to talk about the ChatGPT. I'm going to demonstrate the ChatGPT voice conversations for developers tool. And the coolest thing is, man, when you do it on your phone and you're just sort of hacking around talking with this thing and it's making stuff for you, then you about 5 minutes later, you go back to your computer on your ChatGPT and it's all right there, all the code, all the pictures, everything. So great way to get kind of lazy but efficient with your ChatGPT. So there's a model course. If you were here last week, you got this and you have signed up. It's free. You just enroll yourself. It's self-enrollment. Can I do that? Oops, sorry. I'll put this in the, where's my chat window? I'll put the link in the chat if you want to check that out. Anyway, if you go there or you use this QR code, you can get in and you can see all of the examples we've talked about last week and all the examples we're talking about this week. And I'll leave it open for about 3 months. So that's the course. So what we talked about all last week was the H5P text editing option here. It's called textual. Normally, when you're in H5P, you have the default sort of forms, slow, horrible editing method that's imposed by H5P. I'm exaggerating, of course. Anyway, last week we clicked on the textual and pasted the code in from H5P and got some neat little results. When you do this, you have to have a generative chat tool, Copilot. I use ChatGPT, Cloudy, whatever you want. You have to really be, like Sophie said, good with your prompt. Prompt a lot, prompt often. Be prepared to fail a lot. But once you get the right prompt and the right structure, it will help you going forward with all of the other learning objects you're going to do in the future. You must, for these tricks we're using, except for the Quizlet, tell AI to output the output as code, and you don't have to be a coder or a programmer. You just copy and paste the code. And then the quiz creator tools, like Quizlet and Kahoot and all of those, you don't have to do the code. You just type into a box and say, I want you to make me a study set about candy canes. And it just does it. Okay, so this is where we're going today. in the Moodle quiz option that we're going to do in about 3 activities from now, it's not copying and pasting code. It's actually saving a file and then importing the file into Moodle. Because you remember, Moodle's kind of old, right? So here's our demonstration. Essentially, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be following the handout. Now, if you want the handout, it's on the course here, right there. It's right there, the webinar 2 handout for today. So it looks like this. And I guess here we go. So you can have, sorry. Oops. We've talked about all that. You can, it depends on the tools and that you're using, but look for this efficiency. Having a single prompt to create a single output that you can use in different places. And if you can figure this out, you can make, half your work, right? So the two I have identified for this example are H5P, fill in the blanks, and H5P, mark the words. Now, they're not exact, right? If you look at them carefully, they're not exact, but they have enough commonalities that when you do put them in, the basic commonalities, you can just copy and paste from ChatGPT, and they both function. So looking at this really clunky kind of prompt I made based on all the work we did last week. So create a task about Canadian provinces at the CEFR A2 language level. Include 2 paragraphs and 3 keywords per paragraph. The keywords must be the names of Canadian provinces such as Manitoba. Do not use 2-word provincial names with 2 words such as British Columbia. Why is that? It's because there's a bit of a flaw in H5P when you have a space between the words like Nova Scotia, terms like Nova Scotia, there's an issue. There is a solution for that. You could actually put a special character in there, but I just didn't bother today. I apologize to Nova Scotia and British Columbia. So follow this format for the output. Keywords are added with an asterisk in front and behind the correct word or phrase. Do not add any labels, formatting, or numbering, and no extra empty line below the correct statement. Output the answer as code. So don't worry about code. It'll come to you. So you'll be fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy that prompt and I'm going to paste it in my ChatGPT. And I'm going to input it. And some of you, plain text, what? That's okay. Well, it doesn't really matter for these. So if you weren't here last week, we've got complex prompts. And normally when you take output from ChatGPT, you use this copy icon. But for our purposes, you click on copy code, this icon. So I click on that. So I've copied the code. And now we're going to make a fill in the blank activity. So in order to do that, in Avenue, I hope a lot of you are on Avenue. I'm sure you all are. So I went to the content bank by navigating down here under all my important stuff. I went to content bank, and this is where the H5P editing in Avenue occurs. I click on add, and I go to fill in the blanks. The H5P editor appears for fill in the blanks. And you're familiar with this, right? It's got a form input. So here, I'll just call this Canadian cities. I've already done it, so we'll call it Canadian cities 2. Fill in the blank. And then here you can put your own description if you want, but filling in the missing words is good. So, and we're going to ignore this extra instructions. We talked about that last week. So here I'm just going to paste the code, came out of that. there are no artifacts here, like different characters or here. So you can see it made me the paragraphs, and it's got the asterisk in front of the province names. So to make this a short story, click on save. Oh, that's terrible. So here is the actual H5P learning object. You didn't have to put all the details in once at a time. So Canada is a large country with many provinces. One of the provinces is, ooh, geez, I would say Alberta.
Did they say Quebec?
What?
I
Is it?
think it said Quebec, but I'm not sure. I saw Quebec at some point. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. Okay, another province is uh Alberta. Oh boy. Okay, that would be British Columbia as well, right? Oh no, you can't because I said not to use that.
Mhm. No,
In
that's Quebec.
Quebec.
Yeah.
Okay, so
First
let's
one.
see. Let's see. We don't have time for all this. So the student would click on check, and then you've got Quebec here, Alberta. And remember, do you remember last week when we put backslashes and we had feedback on each of the uh fields in the drag. I think it was a drag and drop. I can't remember. But anyway, you can actually add that to this as well. But because we're using this prompt for two different kinds of objects, you can't use it because one has that feature and one doesn't. So you gotta be careful with that. Okay, so we produce one, we produce that fill in the blank with that prompt. And then here, what's the next one? It is mark the words. So marked, I'm going to go to mark the words. And I'm just going to make a mark the words. So I'm going to say mark the words, Canada, oops, city. And I would say click on the Canadian. Is it provinces we did, right? Not cities. Oh, because my other examples were cities. I apologize. So here, we're going to do the same thing with mark the words. I'm going to paste in what ChatGPT gave us as code. And I'm going to click on save. Okay, so Manitoba this is a lot easier. So you see that with one prompt, we've made two activities. It's not very, very elegant, but if you have to push stuff out quickly, it might help you out. Okay. And all of these steps are very meticulous on this with hyperlinks to the example, if you wish to check it out. So you see that there's a little bit of code here, you copy the code and you're fine. Okay, so this one's a bit more, it's like chewing bubble gum and skip rope, doing skip rope. And this isn't really AI. So what we have right now is we have about 5 or 6 small learning objects, H5P learning objects in our content bank. Okay, so if I go back to the content bank of this, I'll go to the content bank of this course here. And every course has a content bank, right? So the best way to work a content bank is you want to really work with the stuff that you've worked with recently. I've got hundreds and hundreds of H5Ps in this. It's a nightmare. So the trick is you go to last modified here and you go click, click. And what it will do is it puts the most recent learning objects here that you've made. Okay. So I have this content bank and I want to make an H5P columns sort of efficiently. Okay, you could go in and paste all the code, you can make all of these codes, put them in a big long Word document, and then paste the codes into the column. But I'm going to do something slightly differently. So I have my content bank here. I'm going to right click on this and click on duplicate tab, right? So basically I have two content banks open, right? This is the one with the most recent objects, and this is the one where I'm going to make my column. So to start, on the far right one, I'm going to click on Add, and I'll click on Column. And columns are used for people who know that their students will be using tablets so they can see the content by swiping up, or even their phones. The course presentation, if you have a phone, or if you have like a tablet, I know that you can tilt them, but sometimes the students can't. And so sometimes they're not the best solution. And also columns allow you to have way more learning activities than the course presentation. So this column, I'm just going to call, I'm going to call the H5P, the column sampler. Okay, so here I am, I'm in my column in this tab. And the other tab, I still have my content bank content. So here is a column. You can put anything you want in here under this. This is the first element. If I click on here, you can see that there's all sorts of things in here. There's all sorts of these different kinds of learning objects. So I have one here, mark the word. So the first thing I'm going to do, just for expediency, is choose a mark the word, add a mark the word to this column. Of course, it wouldn't be like this, right? So here's the mark the words in the first section of this column. I got to go back to the first tab, click on my finished mark the words, Canada City. And there it is. If I go here to edit, the editor pops up. And you probably haven't noticed this before, but over here, it's got a copy button and a paste and replace button. So if I just click on all the contents here, right? All I have to do is click on copy at the top and then go back to the empty tab, the column that's empty right now. I have marked the word set up, but there's nothing here. I can just go over here under this blue banner and I can click on paste and replace. Replace the content. And there you go. There's my first element for the column. Has anybody done this before, or is this just something I haven't seen anybody else in their practice doing it, but I'm sure a lot of you have. So the column's a bit unmanageable as an editor because it just keeps on expanding and expanding. So after you make one of these elements, you click on this little collapse icon. And this is what the column looks like right now. There's a mark the words activity. So you just continue like this. So the next thing you do is you click on add content, click here, say go to fill in the blanks activity. Okay, it's empty. So I'm going to go back to my content bank. And in my content bank, oops, it jumped away. I'm going to find a fill in the blanks activity. There it is. I'm going to click on edit. And there's the content. So I'm going to just simply click on copy. I'm going to go back to my build my column, fill in the blanks, look to the right, paste and replace, replace content. And there you go. So if I click on save, you can see first activity, second activity. Now, the column's pretty good. You can add all sorts of things. You can put interactive videos in there. You can put all sorts of things. It's not the best with images. But other than that, it's pretty good. Okay. I will ask a question. I'll ask now, does anybody have any questions about this columns? Because I'm not doing a lot of time on that because we have more to look at. And there's a lot of explanation in the handout. It's like 10 pages, I think. Okay. Okay, thank you. All right. That's the columns. There's a sample of it in the course if you want to look at it here. The next thing I want to look at is this, because this was asked by as a request. I took this from one of our new graded readers, and it's just 10 questions from the graded reader about the content of a book. So how we did this was on page, if you look on page 14, we just made a very, very large prompt because it has the content of the book, graded reader in there. So in ChatGPT, the real prompt is create a multiple choice quiz based on this story. And then here's the story. And then there's more of the stuff like we did last week. Create 10 questions with 4 alternatives per question. For each distractor, add an explanation why the distractor is not correct. A correct alternative, all of the stuff that we did last week, and make sure it's in code. So essentially, I took this prompt and I put it in ChatGPT. And ChatGPT reads the story and starts creating questions. When we talked about this last week, the questions and distractors might not be the best. So I try normally to generate 15, and then I pare it down to 10. And even with that, you still have to make some alterations for the distractors and stuff. You're teachers, that's what you do, right? So essentially, you've got that. Oh, still generating. This one has feedback as well. And do you notice on the left-hand side, it gives me the title over here, so I can come back to these later on. I click on copy code, and I go back to my content bank. We did this last week. Add a new H5P. And this one would be called question set, because it's like a quiz. And I could just call it Hockey Girl is the name of the book. And down here, instead of using all of these form-based elements, I click on textual, put in the code that was generated by ChatGPT, and click on save. Robin, I'll answer that question later. Thanks. So here is your quiz. And you just go through just like a question like that. So if you have like a document or something like that and you want to make a quiz or a story or whatever, you can do it that way. Okay. And all the steps are there. Okay, so the Moodle quiz is our next fun spot. So you have to forget about copying and pasting now. We're going to be building an import, and there's a little twist here. Okay, there is a Moodle quiz example on this course. Okay, so it's Canadian Cities Moodle import demonstration. So it's just a regular Moodle quiz. So what you have to know about this is when you want to make a Moodle quiz in coordination with ChatGPT, you're going to be building a file, an XML file, and you're going to put it into Notebook. You're going to save it, and you're going to then import that into Moodle. And there's one real big twisty thing because I'm crazy about the question bank in Moodle. If you don't define the category, you'll never find your questions. Like, I mean, well, you will, but it'll take you a long time. So let's make sure that we put that into our prompts when we make quizzes. what the name of the category is. So when you put it into your question bank, it's easily found. Okay. So there are different kinds of formats for quizzes. There's been a lot of these around forever and ever. For our avenue, you're going to use the Moodle XML format. Don't worry about what XML is. It's just .xml at the end of a text file. Okay. ChatGPT does a fantastic job of structuring your code, so you don't have to worry too much about it. So the steps to create a Moodle quiz are at the XML files, you open your chat and then you input a prompt. Now I kept this one simple, so it's not going to overwhelm. So create a 5-question multiple choice quiz about Canadian cities in Moodle XML format. Ensure the category is Canadian cities. That's really bare bones, right? Because you would like to put in the CLB level, maybe the document or the story it's from, or the video it's from, all that stuff. Like the core thing is 5 questions, multiple choice, topic is Canadian cities, Moodle XML format, and Canadian cities. You don't have to say code because it already knows Moodle XML format is code. Okay. So let's do this now. I'm in ChatGPT. Clear that off. I'm going to put that nice little prompt in there. And once we're in there, see that the code is XML and it's building an XML file. And see at the top where it says category, Canadian cities. So when you go to your question bank and like after you import it, it's going to be, all the questions will be under Canadian cities. I'm just going to make sure it's finished. It's not finished yet. Oh boy. Well, it takes a little time. But I think if you have any time this week, you might want to try to do this once or twice on your own so it gets stuck in your brain. Otherwise, you'll come back and it might be a bit hard. So I'm going to click on copy code from ChatGPT. And then what I'm going to do is, you can't see this, but I'm going to paste that code into something called Notepad. Notepad is like the bare bones word processor for free word processor for Microsoft. I'm not sure what you have on your operating system, but this is the one I use when I want something clean. So essentially, I just pasted that in, and I went File, Save As, and I typed in Canadian_cities_quiz. Now here's the thing: you just type in .xml, okay? Because it defaults to .txt. If you put txt, excuse me, Moodle won't know what you're importing. Okay, so it's just like file, save as, your file name, .xml, all in the same line, save, and it looks something like this. Okay, so I'm gonna do this as well here. Okay, so I'm going to save that as XML. All right. So I've taken this code, pasted it into Notepad, saved it as a file, .xml. Right. Now, I just want to show you that if I can, just to make sure. You see here, it coded the question, the category of the questions is Canadian cities. Okay. So that's important when you're working with Moodle. Okay. So here's the twist that you might forget, because it took me a while to get my brain around this. On your course, you don't just make a quiz. You have to go up here to the cog or actions menu icon. And that's there on page 21, step 6. You go there and go down to more. Then you go all the way down here to question bank. And you're going to click on the import link. I think on Moodle 4, it's much simpler than that. This is kind of awkward in Moodle 3.10. So now we're going to import questions from a file. We have the file, the XML file. So what we're going to do right now is choose our file format, which is Moodle XML. And then we're going to find the file we just made. Upload the file. I got to find it. It's going to be a mess. And there it is, Canada Cities, XML. I click on open. And I'm going to upload this file to my course. Sorry, I'm going to import this file into my course. So the idea is you create the file and then you import it into the question bank first, and then you make the quiz. So when we're here, you see here are the 5 questions it made. Okay, they're all okay. And then you go to the questions tab. Thank God these steps are here for all of us. And when we're in the questions, when you're in here, you'll see all sorts of stuff here. It's kind of good for here because I've been working on this one, but normally you would see questions that are really old. So here you look for the category here, click on select category, and I just keep on hitting C until I see the category that I just made. Canadian cities. Now there are 30 questions there because I've done this, I think, 6 times. So that's why I didn't clean up after myself. So there's Canadian cities. So I click on the topic and there it is. And oops, it's refreshing. And you see, these are the questions that are in that category. Like if I was clean and efficient, that's it. So now that you now know that they're in the question bank and accessible through a category. Okay. So then you got to go back to your course. And then you're going to turn editing on. This probably was made by the people who invented cricket. Very complicated game. So I'm turning editing on, and I'm going to put it here, the quiz. So normally for a quiz, you click on add an activity or resource, quiz, name the quiz. Oh, shoot, didn't like that. I'm going to call it sample quiz. And then all of these elements you could do on your own, right? But we just want to get the questions in from the imported file. So I'm going to click on save and display. And once you're in here, you're going to go to edit quiz. And there's no questions. So now we know that the questions are in the question bank. So you click on add from question bank. Every one of these steps is there for you. And all of the questions in the whole question bank are sitting here. So you have to do that whole thing again where you go and find it. You don't have to do what I did before to locate to see if they were imported. That's just an extra step, just to be sure. And there's Canadian cities, the category. So I'm going to import the questions from this category. I'm going to choose one of these, one of these, one of these, one of these, and one of these. These come from the question bank. And then I'm going to click on add selected questions to quiz. And there's your quiz. There's only 5 marks, so I'm going to make sure the maximum grade is 5 and click on save. And that's the quiz edited. So if I go back to the course itself, I'll turn editing off. And there's my quiz as the students would see it. And I click here, attempt quiz now. And there you go. You have like a Moodle quiz. Now, I know that that's a lot of work and it's a bit complicated, but if you have, like some courses I've had, like 20 to 50 different quizzes, and you have all, you want to make money and you want to be efficient, this is probably a good method to consider. Good thing I locked the doors, so you couldn't leave. So all the steps are here. The next thing is Quizlet. I'm sure a lot of you have used Quizlet in the past. I'm showing you this because there are a lot of tools out there now that have AI built right into them. So here's my Quizlet free trial account. To start a Quizlet study set, the study set it's based on the words, the terms, maybe some images, maybe some sounds, and the definitions, right? So I'm trusting in AI to make the study set, and then I can actually go back and refine it. So I click on plus, and there's all sorts of things here, but I'm just going to go for study guide. In here, you must type in 100 words. This is like an AI prompt. So this prompt is on page 27 of the handout. And the prompt is create a 10-term vocabulary list with definitions for basic computer repair that a grade 5 student will understand. All you have to do is here, but you can grab a file with a prompt from your computer, or you can grab something from Google Drive if you wish. Then down here, I just click on the magic button, generate. They want you to put, I don't work here, and I don't know what Canadian Studies is. I just put these here and I click on View Study Guide. And essentially here are the terms. You can edit them, refine them here, delete, add, whatever you wish. And then at the bottom, this is what the students see. Study this material. You can click on flashcards. And if you're familiar with Quizlet at all, you can see that here's the flashcard itself, the definition. They have different features on Quizlet, of course, a lot of you know. So you have the flashcards feature, you have the learn feature, the test feature, the matching feature, and Quizlet Live, which is a lot of fun if you have a live class in front of you. So that's the way AI works for third-party tools. All right, so we're coming to the end of the day, and I want to play with this one. Okay. So if you look on page 31, God, this is a long handout. You'll see a series of steps based on the front of a phone. Has anybody used this feature before? Voice conversations? Has anybody used it? All right, so I'm showing you how to use it. I would use it as a developer. I got kind of lazy, but I actually built a really nice lecture and a series of notes and a PowerPoint.
Looks like your message got cut off.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, this demonstration is not going well, but it went perfectly this
I'll create
afternoon.
it for you right away.
Okay, hang on. I think I did it this way. Okay, so if you're looking, can you look at the screen, please? The sharing screen? Okay, thank you very much. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Call me after hockey. Okay, so essentially it will give you feedback and all that on what you want. And so this is what happened before I came. We started up this afternoon. Here's my whole conversation. I asked him to make a man opening a bank account so I could use that in one of my learning objects. And then I asked him to had a little conversation here. And then I asked it to make a quiz about teaching technology. So it's an XML quiz. Here's the code. And I have it all here on my laptop. The thing is, though, I actually had that conversation on my phone with ChatGPT, and then within 5 minutes, it appeared here. So you might want to consider that as something for your future development. I'm not sure. Okay, so that's it for today. Now I'm open to questions. I'm going to read one or two from the. I'm going to read one from Robin. Would the learners have this story in another open tab? Oh, Robin, you're thinking like a teacher. Yes, of course. Of course, whenever you have a quiz like that, it would be accompanied by close by the book itself, or the text, or the video, or the audio. Yes, we're just making the quiz portion here. Okay. You could actually include it if you wanted to in a course presentation, or a what do you call it? The interactive book, or the column, where you would have the book or the text here, and then you would have the questions seated around it somehow. It depends on who your audience is, I guess, and your design skills. From Robin again, Quizlet, can you add the prompt, add corresponding images? Yeah, let's see what that gives us. Sorry, I'm just going to do this really quickly. Maybe it will. That's fantastic, Robin, if it does. Well, in this case, it didn't, but I bet you if we had I would not bet you, but I would suggest that possibly if it was a real account, like an institution account, maybe that's a possibility. Like that tool called Quizlet Diagrams is dynamite with images. So thanks for that question. Does anybody else have a question?
Yeah, I have a question, and it goes back to using ChatGPT on the phone. I'm not even sure how to phrase this. Can ChatGPT generate audio questions? Would that come out in an XML code?
Yeah. I think, okay, that's a little above my brainwave, but
Okay.
I would say that you could, if you had a tool that accepted code and converted it automatically, yes, I'm sure that's out there. That's because I've seen these third-party apps out there that do this. They've put ChatGPT into it, and then you ask it to generate audio, and it does. So I'm sure it does exist. Yes. That's a great thing to think about. Next webinar.
Okay, I'm just yeah, I just want to work kind of a little more with audio
Uh-huh.
for speaking and listening, which I always find a little more challenging. So I often end up like recording my own voice, or anyway, or getting other instructors to record. So I know that ChatGPT has a pretty well, as close to natural voices as I've heard, like on my phone.
Yeah.
And it's pretty good, because I've looked at other AI voices, and they've sounded too robotic. So yeah.
Okay,
Anyway.
I wanna actually play something for all of you, and then I'm gonna ask you what you think. So this is from Google Labs. It's called Notebook LM. It's actually going to change the way all students study. Like maybe not lower ESL, of course. But my daughter's at college, and she was showing me this.
avenue.ca. Yeah, avenue.ca is doing some really interesting things to make that process, that learning process, a little bit smoother for newcomers. It's kind of like, if you were going to teach somebody a new language, you wouldn't just hand them a grammar book without explaining the alphabet.
Okay, so you hear the quality of that and the exchange, and okay, all I did was I put in a couple sentences about Avenue and the link to the Avenue website, and it goes into detail like you can't believe.
Explaining why it matters, giving those thought-provoking questions for instructors to reflect on, and like I said, even those can-do statements so teachers.
Like, I mean, digging and putting it out in such a smooth format. So this notebook LM, it's only experimental, so it's probably going to come out in a pay version in the future, but it's actually designed for college and university students to input a document, and it turns it into a conversational podcast, which is really easy to listen to. So I took the podcast from Dr. Deborah Healy, like a really long one, and I dropped it in the audio. Holy cow. It came back with an analysis, but that was really down to earth, easy to understand. So whoever made this, it's awesome. You can put anything into this and it just rocks. So you can use it on your phone or you can use it on your your laptop. It's called Notebook LM. You're going to hear all about it for the next couple of months. Anybody want to comment?
So it will, if I understand right, it can create a conversation.
A podcast conversation, yeah. Anybody else want to comment?
Oh,
sorry.
As of yet, you can't specify the level of language yet. So I would
Okay, yeah. Robin,
Right.
you're always the teacher, right? Yeah, those bells and whistles are not there yet.
Right, okay.
But if you think about how this thing can take facts and just build this genius, beautiful piece, surely that they can do well. I know it's not easy, but surely that's the direction that we'll have. We'll have more and more functionality with it, right? So right now it's experimental. Yeah.
Does it allow you to choose voices, or how does the voice
No.
portion?
No.
So you can't even...
Playback speed. Yeah, but you got to think about this beyond like what it offers now. This quality is going to be with all the bells and whistles in a few months. So you can plan your development accordingly. Do you know what I mean? Like instead of going into the sound booth or buying, like I bought that thing last year. It cost $400 US, and none of the voices were usable in the end. You know, those synthesized voices. So they've cracked something here. So keep your eye on that. Keep your eye on Google Labs too. It's quite an amazing place. If you have any questions, folks, just email me. Okay? If I missed something or I made a mistake or if you want to know more. Okay. Thanks, everyone.